Hey y'all, welcome to part 7 of Intro to Programming. In this video, I'm going to cover methods, what they are, and how to use them. So let's take a quick example real quick, and I'm going to do a console.writeLine hello Frodo to the screen. Now, we've already covered what this does, but what if there's a way we could actually store this action or this statement inside of something and reuse it as many times as we want? Well, we can, and we can do that with something called a method. Now, methods are kind of similar to a variable where you could saw that how we can store values inside of a variable and then reuse that as many times as we want. Well, we can do that with a set of statements that perform any action that we want. And these, as like I just said, are called methods. And we define methods inside of the class here, but outside of the main method. And how this works is we define methods right here, and then we call them or execute those methods up here. So let's actually write a method that's going to do exactly what this line on line 9 does. So I'm going to print it out real quick. Public static void say hi console.writeLine hello Frodo. So these are doing the two exactly the same things. Now this isn't really a case that you'd want to use a method, but I'm just showing it to you for demonstration purposes. And let's actually dissect the method signature a little bit. This is the method signature. That's just the terminology for basically the method definition. And what this keyword public does is, not that we're going to get into this really in this tutorial series, but later on when we start creating classes or files outside of this file that we're in right now, and we'd create methods inside of those classes, you would want them to be public so that you could access them in different files. So that's why we have public here, and we'll just stick with that for now. Static, don't worry about what static means right now. We're not going to cover the topic that it actually is what static is used for, but in all the methods that you're going to use in this tutorial series, you're going to use static. Void is the return type. Now, we're not returning anything. This method is not giving us any type of value. It's just printing something to the console. So the return type is nothing, which means void. And then here's the variable name. We want to use Pascal casing for this variable name. So like variables are camel casing, this is Pascal casing, which means the first letter of the first word is capitalized. And then we have parentheses, and then inside of the code block is all of the executable code. Now let's go ahead and actually call this method in the main method, or invoke it. And you want the parentheses on there because that's actually what's invoking or calling the method. And if we hit F5 to run, you're going to see that we get hello Frodo. So now let's actually take in a parameter right here. So instead of just saying hello Frodo, it'll pretty much say whatever we want it to. And a parameter is just something that you pass into the method, and the method will do something with that value. And let's see how that works. So we want to pass in a name, which a name is a string data type. So this is where you want to define the data type of the parameter that you're going to pass into it, and then say name. And now let's use string interpolation that we learned a couple lessons ago, and say hello curly braces name. Now you can see that we're getting a compilation error right here. It's saying there is no argument given that corresponds to the required formal parameter name of program.sayHi. So it's saying that we since we defined a parameter right here, it's asking for an argument. An argument is basically just the placement for a parameter. Don't get those two things confused. So let me describe that a little more. So an argument is what you actually pass into the method when you call it, but when you define the method down here, it's known as a parameter. So just like a placement, and then up here is the actual value that you pass in. Okay, so we passed in a value, and if we hit F5 now, you're going to see that we get hello Frodo. And that can be anything we want. We could put in Sam right there and hit F5, and we get hello Sam. Now let's actually do something a little bit more interesting. In the last lesson, we covered reading from the console. We're going to capturing user input. We're going to do the same thing here and use that input to say hi to that person. So we're going to store that input in a variable called name equals console.readLine. And then now we pass that variable inside of this and this parameter. Then hit F5. Now you can see we got a blinking cursor, which means it's waiting for user input. And we'll say Samwise. and it says hello Samwise. Now, there's should be a better way, so let me hit F5 again one more time. The only indication that we're waiting for user input is the blinking cursor, and that's not super clear. So let's actually say console.writeLine, please enter your name. Hit F5. And now you can say it says, please enter your name. I hit my name, and then it, we do the same thing. But let's actually get that Sam to be on the same line of please enter your name. And let me show you how this works real quick. So console.writeLine, how does this exactly work? Write is writing this text to the console, and then line means a new line. So it's writing and then putting a new line. So if we simply just take out this line portion, console.write, we're going to see that it sticks to the same line. So please enter your name. Now we are on the same line, and then we get hello Frodo. So that just looks a little cleaner. Okay, now let's actually talk about returning values on methods. So generally what methods do is it takes in a value, computes that value, and returns it to you. And you can store that value inside of a variable and then print the variable to the console if you wish. Now let's see how that works. We're going to write a simple method that just returns the sum. You're going to pass in two parameters to that method, and then it's going to return the sum of those two parameters. So we have public static again, and then instead of void, we're actually returning a value. We're going to return an integer value. So we're going to say int for integer, and then sum, int a, and int b, and you can call these whatever you want. Now, it's going to yell at us because it's waiting for a return statement. It says not all code paths return a value. Since we're requiring a return value by this int keyword right here, we need to specify a return statement somewhere in order for it to return a value. So we can say return a plus b. And this is simply going to take in two values here and return the sum of those two values. Now let's go ahead and store this result inside of a variable, sum, and pass in two variables. And now we're storing the sum of 10 and 5 inside of the result variable. We'll actually print it to the console for proof. We should get 15, and yep, you can see 15 right there. So the compiler gets to here. It's about to store the result of 10. It sees that it's invoking a method right here called sum. So it goes down here and passes 10 into A right here, passes 5 into B, and returns 10 plus 5, 15. And you don't have to actually put anything there. You could just return 10 if you want to, but that's not really doing anything. So just because you're returning a value doesn't mean that you need to pass anything in. But for the most part, you're probably gonna have parameters or arguments you're passing in to compute those values with. So just for your reference. Okay, so that's it for this video, guys. In the next video, I'm gonna give you guys an exercise to do that's going to encompass everything that we've learned so far, and then give you an exercise to actually practice with it. And if you don't want to actually do it, you can just skip along to the later portion of the video where I go on to the solution. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.